On March 15, 2021, a 21-year-old finance major at Rutgers University opened the Robinhood app on his phone in the middle of a Zoom lecture and watched $204,000 evaporate in 47 minutes. His name was Danny Park. 8 months earlier, he had $13,000 to his name, savings from 3 summers of waiting tables at his parents' Korean barbecue restaurant in Fort Lee, New Jersey, plus a $4,200 student loan refund check he was supposed to spend on textbooks. By January 25, 2021, that $13,000 had become $207,000. By March 19th, it was $1,400. This is the story of how a kid with a 3.4 GPA and a used Honda Civic became, for exactly 96 days, one of the most profitable retail options traders in America, and then lost everything in 4 weeks. Danny Park was born on October 3, 1999, in Palisades Park, New Jersey, a 2-square-mile borough in Bergen County with the highest density of Korean Americans in the United States. His parents had immigrated from Seoul in 1993 with $11,000 sewn into the lining of a suitcase. His father, Jae-sik, worked 16-hour days, first at a dry cleaner in Hackensack, then behind the grill of a restaurant called Seoul Barbecue that he bought in 2005 with a second mortgage. By the time Danny was 12, the restaurant was grossing $400,000 a year, but after rent, supplies, and 2 employees, Jae-sik took home maybe $52,000. Danny knew this number because he helped his mother reconcile the receipts every Sunday night at the kitchen table. He was a B student at Bergen County Academies, a competitive magnet school, smart enough to get in, not smart enough to dominate. The one thing teachers remembered was that he was quiet, observant, obsessed with numbers. By 14, he was bussing tables. By 16, working the register. Every dollar went into a savings account at Bank of America that paid 0.03% interest. Danny watched $9,000 sit there for 2 years and earn less than $6. That $6 offended him. He didn't know it yet, but that offense was the spark. The door opened in March 2020. COVID shut down Rutgers. Danny's classes went online. The restaurant went to takeout only, and revenue collapsed 70% overnight. Danny was sent home from his dorm with a laptop, a lot of free time, and a dread that his family was about to lose everything they'd built in 27 years. That same month, the S&P 500 fell 34% in 23 trading days, the fastest bear market in history. Danny, scrolling Twitter at 2 a.m., watched professional traders post screenshots of 500% gains on Boeing puts, on Carnival calls, on Robinhood accounts that had multiplied tenfold in a week. On April 9, 2020, he downloaded the app. He deposited $9,000, his entire savings. 3 weeks later, he added the $4,200 student loan refund. $13,200 total commitment. Here's what you need to understand, Xavi. Danny wasn't trading stocks. He was trading options. A stock is ownership. You buy a share of Tesla, you own a tiny piece of the company. An option is a contract, the right, but not the obligation, to buy or sell 100 shares of that stock at a specific price, by a specific date. A call option bets the stock will go up. A put option bets it will go down. The magic word is leverage. One Tesla share in June 2020 cost around $190. One Tesla call option contract controlling 100 shares cost maybe $400. If Tesla goes up 10%, the stockholder makes 10%. The option holder can make 200%, 500%, 1,000%, because the option amplifies every dollar of movement. But here's the catch. The app doesn't put in bold. Options expire. If the stock doesn't move the right way before the expiration date, the contract becomes worthless. Zero. Not down a little. Zero. You don't hold and hope. The clock is always ticking. Danny didn't know any of this on day one. His first trade was 10 contracts of Boeing calls expiring in 2 weeks. He picked Boeing because it was at $95, down from $350, and everyone on Twitter said airlines were coming back. The contracts cost $870. On June 8, 2020, Boeing jumped 9% on resumed 737 MAX production testing. Danny's options went from $870 to $3,100 in 9 days. He sold. He had tripled a quarter of his money in under 2 weeks. His hands were shaking when he pressed sell. And here's the thing about that first win. It was the worst thing that could have happened to him. Because now Danny believed he had a gift. He didn't have a gift. He had timing. There's a difference, and that difference would cost him $205,000. For the next 7 months, Danny lived inside the app. He found his community, a subreddit called r-Wall Street Bets, 11 million users who posted screenshots of six-figure gains and six-figure losses with equal glee, who called themselves degenerates and treated blowing up an account like a badge of honor. He learned the vocabulary: calls, puts, theta decay, diamond hands, tendies. He studied the pattern day trader rule, a FINRA regulation requiring anyone making more than 3 day trades in 5 business days to maintain a $25,000 minimum balance. Under $25K, you were locked out. Danny was trapped at $13K, making maybe 3 trades a week, holding overnight, praying. His thesis was simple, and for a while it worked. Find high volatility stocks, buy short-dated options, ride momentum, Tesla, NIO, Plug Power, Apple. Every one of these stocks went on a historic run between June and December 2020. Tesla alone rose 743%. The market was a casino, and the house was handing out chips to anyone under 25 with a smartphone. On November 9, 2020, Pfizer announced its COVID vaccine was 90% effective. The market exploded. Danny, who had been holding NIO call options, the Chinese electric vehicle company, watched his position go from $11,000 to $84,000 in 4 days. NIO stock rose from $33 to $54. He didn't sell, he held. By November 23rd, his account crossed $50,000. The pattern day trader restriction lifted. Now he could trade freely. He bought Tesla calls on December 1st, the day Tesla was added to the S&P 500. Tesla rose 60% that month. Danny's account crossed $100,000 on December 18th. He was 21 years old, sitting in his childhood bedroom in Fort Lee, watching a number on a screen larger than his father's annual income. On January 8, 2021, he bought Tesla call options expiring January 15th, when the stock was at $880. By expiration, Tesla was at $826. He lost $31,000 in one trade. His account dropped to $143,000. But he didn't quit. He came back Monday and bought NIO calls again. On January 25, 2021, his account hit $207,000. He took a screenshot. He almost posted it to Reddit. He just stared at it. What happened next took 31 days. On January 25, 2021, Danny Park was sitting on $207,000 in options contracts. Not $207,000 in cash. $207,000 in leverage, in paper promises that would expire worthless if the underlying stocks didn't keep climbing, and keep climbing fast. He didn't sell, he didn't take profits. He didn't withdraw a single dollar to pay back the $4,200 student loan that had seeded the whole thing. He bought more. On February 2nd, he purchased $89,000 worth of Tesla put options, betting the stock would fall. Tesla rose 12% in 5 days. The puts expired worthless. $89,000. Gone. Not down 20%. Not cut in half. 0. That's how options work. That's the part nobody on Reddit posted about with the rocket ship emoji. On February 22nd, Danny went all in on call options for ARK Innovation ETF. Cathie Wood's fund, the hottest name in retail trading, up 150% in 12 months. He bought $60,000 in calls expiring March 19th. ARK began falling, not because of fraud, not because of a crash, but because interest rates started rising and growth stocks rotated out of favor. Slow, methodical, boring, the kind of decline that options can't outrun because theta decay, the daily erosion of an option's value as expiration approaches, doesn't care about your thesis, your conviction, or your screenshot. By March 10th, Danny's ARK calls were down 70%. He held. By March 15th, sitting in a Zoom lecture for his corporate finance class, he watched the remaining $204,000 in his account vanish as his positions hit expiration worthless, 47 minutes. He didn't close the laptop, he just sat there. By March 19th, after the last contract settled, his account read $1,400. Less than what he'd started with. Less than the student loan refund he was supposed to spend on textbooks. So what killed Danny Park? And make no mistake, something killed him. Not the market, The market did what the market does. It went up, it went down, it consolidated, it rotated. The market didn't betray him. The market never promised him anything. What killed Danny Park was leverage married to the absence of discipline. And that is the thesis, Chavi, the real thesis underneath every single one of these stories. Leverage is not a tool. Leverage is a magnifying glass. It doesn't change what you are. It reveals it. If you are disciplined, leverage makes you more disciplined. If you are reckless, leverage makes you more reckless. And if you are a 21-year-old who has never experienced a real loss, who believes a winning streak is a system, who has no position sizing rules, no stop losses, no risk management framework, leverage doesn't just take your money. It takes it faster than you can comprehend what's happening. Here's the thing nobody tells you about options. They're designed to expire. The entire instrument is a clock. Every day that passes, the option loses value, even if the stock doesn't move. That's theta decay. It's not a fee. It's not a bug. It's the mechanical reality of a contract with a death date. Danny was fighting that clock on every single trade, and he didn't even know the clock was his enemy. He was picking directions, up, down, and getting the direction right maybe half the time. But in options, half the time isn't enough. You need to be right about direction and timing and magnitude, all three, simultaneously, or the contract expires worthless. That's not investing. That's not even gambling. Gambling at least gives you fixed odds. Options give you odds that decay every day until they reach zero. And this is where the moral weight lands, and it lands hard. Danny Park wasn't evil. He wasn't a fraud. He wasn't Harshad Mehta manipulating a system. He was a kid. A quiet, observant kid who grew up watching his father count pennies at a kitchen table, who saw $9,000 earn $6 in 2 years and felt something crack inside him. A need, a hunger, a belief that the system was rigged against patience. And he was right. The system was rigged against patience. A savings account paying 0.03% interest is a joke. But the answer to a rigged system is not a more rigged game. The answer to $9,000 earning $6 is not $13,000 wagered on options that expire in 14 days. Danny saw the disease. Inflation eating savings, wages stagnating, the slow death of patient capital, and he mistook leverage for the cure. Leverage is never the cure. Leverage is always the accelerant. You throw it on a disciplined fire, and you get a forge. You throw it on an undisciplined one, and you get an inferno. The market is full of Danny Parks. Millions of them. Young people with smartphones and brokerage apps, and a feed full of screenshots showing gains they'll never reproduce. They believe the win rate is the skill. They believe the streak is the system. They don't know that the market has a fail-safe for exactly this kind of trader. It gives you exactly what you want, early, in a dose large enough to make you believe you're special, and then it takes it back in a dose large enough to make you understand you're not. Danny Park got $207,000 in 96 days. He lost $205,000 in 31. The ratio of gain to loss, 96 days up, 31 days down, tells you everything about how leverage works. It takes months to build and days to destroy, because gains compound slowly across many trades, but losses cascade in a single position when the clock hits zero and there's nothing left to hold. So here is the lesson, and it is not new, and it is not complicated, and that is precisely why nobody wants to hear it. Leverage without discipline is not risk. Risk implies a probability distribution, a range of outcomes, some good and some bad. Leverage without discipline is certainty, the certainty of ruin. Not today, maybe not this month, but eventually, inevitably, with the mathematical patience of theta decay ticking toward zero. Danny Park didn't lose because he was stupid. He lost because the instrument he was using was designed to destroy the undisciplined, and he walked into it with the confidence of someone who had never been disciplined a day in his life, because he'd never needed to be. The market had been so generous, so one-directional, so forgiving, that discipline was never the bottleneck, until it was. Until February 2nd, when the puts expired worthless, and there was no recovery trade, no rebound position, no miracle NIO call to save him. Just the clock. Just zero. $207,000 to $1,400. 96 days to build, 31 days to fall. And the student loan, the $4,200 that was supposed to buy textbooks, still owed, still accruing interest at 4.5%. That's the part of the story that doesn't fit in a screenshot, the part that doesn't get a rocket ship emoji. The part where a kid goes back to waiting tables at his parents' restaurant, older by 96 days of winning and 31 days of losing, and understands something that the app, the subreddit, and the entire machinery of retail options trading was designed to make sure he never understood until it was too late. The market doesn't care how smart you are, it only cares how disciplined you aren't.